Not too long ago, I made a video on the topic of color psychology and how the color of a guitar affects our decision making when it comes to buying guitars. And I want to explore that topic a little bit further today with the question, do we buy guitars with our eyes or with our ears? So with that, let's get into it. I've got this new Gibson Theo here. You might recognize this one from when Gibson released it last year in its inaugural limited run. If not, here it is. And it's such an interesting expansion to the Gibson lineup. To me, it kind of looks like the Les Paul and an SG had a baby, and maybe the headstock is, you know, some of the dormant recessive genes that you found in a cousin.
Whose baby do you think I'm carrying?
Whose baby is that?
Now let's do a quick run through of the specs. So first of all, this is the new Gibson Theodore Standard, an antique natural. It's got a mahogany body with a slim taper neck, 43mm nut width, Indian rosewood fingerboard, acrylic trapezoid inlays, an ABR1 tunematic bridge, stop bar tailpiece, Grover mini rotomatic tuners, nickel plating. There's a 57 Classic in the neck and a 57 Classic Plus in the bridge. Master volume, master tone, hand wired with orange drop capacitors, and a hard shell case. The Theodore Standard comes in 3 finishes: ebony, vintage cherry, and this antique natural. So now that we've talked through the specs, let's talk about how we buy and play guitar. When I used to work in guitar sales, I always started with looks, then feel, and then sound. If it looked good, you'd pick it up. If it felt good, you'd play it. And if it sounded good, you'd keep playing it. I also think this is true in reverse. Looks, if you're not attracted to it, you won't pick it up. That's that. I mean, everything that we own and enjoy is something that we're visually attracted to, right? You picked out your clothes today, you picked out the shoes you bought, you picked out the car that you drive. Everything that we do has an aesthetic to it that we decide, right? So guitars would have to be the same and would fall into that category as well. Well, if that's true, then that means that we hear with our eyes as much as our ears, and because of that, I have a hunch that also dictates whether or not we like the sound. And if you played me a lick that I fell in love with and then told me it was a BC Rich, I would have a hard time believing you because aesthetically that doesn't meet the expectations that I have. Now, I do think that this evolves the more time that you spend with any guitar that you buy, but I generally believe this to be true. When the Theo came out, I saw a lot of negativity around this new guitar, this new shape, this new thing that Gibson had introduced. And I think the reason this happened is because it was a new shape and guitarists really don't like new. Overall, in my experience, guitarists are rarely first adopters, and they take a while to come around to a new shape, if they do. And it makes sense though, right? Most guitars that are being played today in 2024 are shapes that were introduced in the 1950s or 1960s. So I get it. So when the Theo came out, it was new and it hadn't been heard yet. So you couldn't buy with your ears, you had to buy with your eyes. And it became a total aesthetic purchase. Guitar players were not excited about the new and had made up their minds with their eyes. Going back to my guitar sales days, I know I'd said it was looks, then feel, and then sound, but that was for someone who had yet to make up their mind about what they wanted. Typically, that was someone that was not a seasoned guitar buyer. Not always, but usually. Someone that was walking in saying, you know, I'm just looking for something new. That was when I felt like looks, feel, and sound mattered most. If you had someone coming in saying, I want a Les Paul, I want an SG, I want a 335, then it was a matter of, okay, cool, which finish, which neck, and what sound. And now when I spend time with seasoned players and buyers, I witness firsthand that feel is becoming more and more important the longer that this person is playing. Players will walk up to a guitar and immediately feel the neck. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but they'll you know, one of those, right? They'll make sure they feel, is it too big? Is it too small? Is it too oddly shaped? Is it not what I'm expecting? And that's an important aspect. If it doesn't fit, they move on. If it doesn't feel good, they move on, and looks become secondary. Feel you can't change. Either it feels good or it doesn't.
That's what she said.
Either you connect with the feel or you don't. And so I want to test this whole idea. What becomes most important in this process? When you look at this, are you totally turned off to it and are not interested? Are you open to the idea if it sounds good and feels good? How do you feel about it at this point? I think that's an interesting place to begin as you're looking at this. How do I feel right now? Here's what we're gonna do. I've got 3 guitars here. Theo, a Korean Explorer, and my 335. I chose these because I wanted them to be similar in sound but different in body shape. So I'm gonna play through these 3 sounds and these 3 guitars and let you pick out which guitar you like most based on sound alone. That's right, I'm gonna blindfold you. And when we're done with the sounds, I'll reveal which guitar is which, and we can discuss them then. If you want to know more about any of the gear used in this video, please check out the links below. It helps support this channel so that I can make more content for you. Now let's talk about the 3 that we just listened to. First up was the Explorer. The Explorer was darker than the other 3. I wasn't expecting it to be that. Still sounded great, really well balanced against itself, had all the sounds, feels good, looks good. I mean, great sound, great look, right? Up next is a 335. So the 335 had a very focused kind of mid-range sound. Still had good sparkle, still had some low end, but it was definitely mid-rangier. Now I've played this guitar the most of all 3 by far, so I was very familiar to the sound. So if you don't think it's very mid-rangey, you disagree, comment below. I know that I could be a little biased about that particular guitar because again, I've just spent an insane amount of time learning and knowing and listening to that. So I hear one thing, you might hear something else. Lastly is the Theo. What was most interesting to me was the Theo was with the 57 Classics, it was brighter than the other two, and it was more balanced than the other two. So it had good low-end response without getting muddy. It had a good mid-range without having that big mid-hump, and it had the sparkle and crispness to it without being tinny or gross. It had a really great sound to it all the way across. When I played this guitar, since unboxing it, there is something magical inside of this Theo. I mean, it's just an incredible guitar. And one of the things I noticed immediately is the roll-off is really nice. It cleans up really nicely. It plays really smooth in every single position, and I would highly encourage you to check one of these out. Now that you've heard all three, it's up to you to decide. Did you like the Theo after hearing it, and could you make the decision to go play one or even pick one up for yourself? Or are you still in the camp that, sorry, no, it's just not for me, I can't get over the looks? With that, comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Now, having heard this against my 335 and that awesome Korean Explorer, where does the brand new Gibson Theodore Standard sit? If you want to check out the new Theodore Standard, you can do so with the link below, or head to your local Gibson dealer and give them a play. Also, while you're at it, go ahead and like and subscribe. That will help out this channel tremendously. And last but not least, thanks so much for watching these videos. I have a ton of fun making them, and I love knowing that you're out there watching. As always, and until next time, stay tuned.